They thought he was just another black man who didn't belong here. But when they pointed guns at his wife and child, they had no idea who they were dealing with. The barrel of the gun was so close, Marcus could see his own reflection in it. His 8-year-old son clung to his leg, shaking. His wife's voice trembled. Please, he didn't do anything. The Florida sun was blazing, but all Marcus felt was a cold steel of fear. 2 uniformed officers stood in front of him, hands tight on their triggers, jaws set like stone. Step away from the child. One barked. The poolside crowd went silent. Some reached for their phones. Others just watched. Marcus kept his hands where they could see them. Slow, calm, controlled. I'm not stepping anywhere. He said evenly, this is my son. The taller cop's lip curled. We got a report. Blackmail. Suspicious. Possible kidnapping. Marcus felt the heat rise in his chest. Not from the sun, but from the rage pressing against his ribs. Suspicious. Because his skin didn't match his son's lighter tone. His wife took a step forward, but the shorter officer swung his aim toward her. Ma'am, stay back. Gasps rippled through the onlookers. A woman near the cabanas whispered, this is insane. Another man shook his head, but said nothing. Marcus spoke slowly, voice steady. You're making a mistake. The tall cop smirked. We'll decide that. And that's when Marcus felt his patience snap, not in anger, but in decision. The decision to end this right now. His hand moved, not toward them, but toward the inside pocket of his jacket. Both cops stiffened, guns twitching. From the crowd, someone yelled, don't shoot. But Marcus didn't stop. In one smooth motion, he pulled it out. The gold glinted in the sunlight, sharp, undeniable. 3 bold letters stared back at the officers. FBI. The crowd's whispers exploded into shouts. The cops froze, eyes darting between each other. The taller one swallowed hard. Sir? Marcus took one slow step forward, badge still out, his voice dropping low. You just pointed loaded weapons at a federal agent in front of dozens of witnesses, and in front of my child. The shorter cop's hands began to tremble. The taller one's jaw shifted, like he was trying to find words that wouldn't bury him alive. They found none. Marcus glanced at his son, still clutching his leg, eyes wide with confusion. He knelt down beside him, never looking away from the men who moments ago were ready to kill him. It's okay, Marcus said softly. Daddy's got this. But as the crowd's murmurs turned into loud calls for accountability, Marcus knew this wasn't over. Not by a long shot. Because the real fight was about to begin. The taller officer took a step back. The shorter one's face had gone pale. Phones were everywhere now, lifted high, recording every second. A young man in swim trunks shouted, Y'all are done. This is going straight online. Marcus didn't flinch. He stood tall, badge still raised. Names. Now. They hesitated. Officer Harper, the tall one muttered. Grady, the shorter one added, his voice cracking. Marcus's wife moved closer, pulling their son gently to her side. Her eyes stayed locked on the gun still in their hands. Put them down, she said firmly. For a moment, neither moved. Then Harper slowly lowered his weapon, laying it on a nearby wicker table. Grady followed, his holster snapping shut with a faint click. You've made a career-ending mistake, Marcus said, his voice low but cutting through the air like glass. You think pointing guns at black fathers is just another Tuesday? Grady's lips parted, but no sound came. Harper stared at the ground. Sir, Harper started, but Marcus cut him off. Don't call me, sir. You don't respect me enough for that. The poolside crowd murmured, some nodding, others shaking their heads at the officers. A woman near the bar wiped tears from her cheeks. I should have said something sooner, she said under her breath. Marcus turned his gaze toward her. It's not your guilt to carry, he said evenly, but it is your responsibility to never stay quiet again. Somewhere behind the crowd, a voice said, Federal agents are on their way. It was a resort security guard, walkie-talkie in hand. Harper shifted nervously. Grady kept glancing at the cameras. The fear wasn't about guns now. It was about the truth. Marcus stepped forward until the space between him and Harper was barely a foot. "You came at me with violence. I came back with the law. The difference is mine will stick." Before either could respond, a black SUV screeched to a stop near the resort gates. Men in suits stepped out, sunglasses on, earpieces in. Marcus gave one last look at the officers, the kind of look that said this was no longer in their hands. Then he walked toward the approaching agents, his wife and son right behind him. As they reached the edge of the pool area, one of the agents leaned in and whispered something in Marcus's ear. Marcus's jaw tightened, his eyes narrowing. Whatever he heard meant this was far bigger than just Harper and Grady. The agent's words were almost lost in the noise of the crowd, but Marcus caught every one of them. It wasn't random. They were looking for you. Marcus stopped walking. The world around him felt muffled. The shouts, the clicking cameras, the hum of the pool filters, all drowned out by those 8 words. Janelle, his wife, noticed his change in stride. "What is it?" she whispered. He didn't answer. "Not yet. Not here." The agents quickly formed a human shield around them, moving them toward the SUV. Marcus glanced over his shoulder at Harper and Grady. Both officers stood frozen, like they knew the net had just been cast over their heads. One of the agents peeled away from the group, flashing his badge at the resort security staff. "We're taking over this scene," he said, his tone leaving no room for discussion. Inside the SUV, the leather seats were cool against Marcus's skin. Janelle was holding their son tightly, the boy's small hands clutching at her dress. "You're scaring me, Marcus," she said, her voice breaking. He finally spoke. "They didn't just mistake me for someone else. They knew my name before they walked up." Janelle's eyes widened. "But why?" Marcus turned to the agent riding shotgun. "Tell her what you told me." The agent looked back, his face grave. 2 weeks ago, you signed off on a federal investigation into an officer ring involved in illegal searches, racial profiling, and cover-ups. Guess whose names were on that list?" Janelle's gaze darted toward the resort entrance, where Harper and Grady were now surrounded by more guests recording every angle. Her breathing quickened. "You're telling me they tried to intimidate us? Here? In front of our son?" "Not intimidate," Marcus said quietly, his voice low but sharp. "They wanted to send a message. Problem is, they picked the wrong messenger." The SUV began to roll toward the exit, but in the side mirror, Marcus saw something that made his stomach turn. A plain white van pulling into the resort parking lot, slowing just as it passed Harper and Grady. The agent noticed it too. "That's not on our manifest," he muttered, hand already on his earpiece. Marcus's instinct screamed. This wasn't over. Not even close. The SUV braked hard. The white van had blocked the resort exit. 3 men stepped out. No uniforms. No badges. But the way their eyes locked on Marcus made it clear this was no coincidence. "Stay down," the agent in the passenger seat ordered, drawing his weapon. The driver was already calling for backup. Janelle pulled their son close, her body shaking but her arms like iron around him. The lead man from the van walked forward slowly, hands just visible in a half-open jacket. "You think that badge protects you everywhere, Agent Cole?" he said, voice dripping with mockery. Marcus's jaw tightened. He stepped out of the SUV. Against every instinct, against every plea from his wife, he closed the distance between them until they were 2 steps apart. "It doesn't just protect me," Marcus said, voice calm but lethal. "It protects every family you've ever thought you could terrorize." The man smirked, but faded when the resort gates swung open behind them. 15 more federal agents poured in, weapons drawn, voices commanding. "Hands where we can see them." The 3 men froze, then slowly raised their hands. Harper and Grady, still in cuffs near the lobby, watched in stunned silence as their friends were slammed against a van and searched. Inside the SUV again, Marcus sat quietly as the agents processed the scene. Janelle's hand found his. "Is it over?" she asked. Marcus stared out at the ocean in the distance, its waves churning under the dying light. "It's never over," he said softly. "But today they learned something important." She tilted her head, waiting. Marcus turned to his son, who was watching him with wide eyes. Never let anyone make you small, he said. And when the storm comes, don't just survive it. Make sure it remembers you. Hours later, as the sun disappeared, news crews crowded the gates. The headlines would burn across the country by morning. FBI agent confronts corrupt cops at luxury resort. Illegal network exposed. And somewhere deep inside, Marcus knew this wasn't just his victory. It was a warning, one that would echo in precincts and backrooms for years to come. Subscribe for more interesting and powerful stories.